Hey everybody. So I think it's safe to say that some murders should never have happened. The warning signs were clear, the courts had their chance, but violent offenders were released again and again until they escalated into tragedy. Tonight, we're going to talk about 4 cases that expose what happens when the system underestimates violent offenders. The first case is about Taco Nash Jr. So, Nash had a long documented history of domestic violence. In 2020, he shot his pregnant girlfriend, Michaela Montgomery. She survived and got a protective order. He was placed on probation, and he wore an ankle monitor. None of it stopped him. Despite the shooting, despite the order, despite the monitor, Nash was released on bond multiple times. On June 15th, 2022, Nash violated the protective order by showing up at Michaela's child's daycare. His ankle monitor tracked him there, but nobody intervened. He forced Michaela and their toddler into nearby woods at gunpoint. She was shot in the head while holding her child. Nash claimed she pulled the trigger, but forensic evidence proved otherwise. In July 2025, convicted of malice murder, kidnapping, and stalking, he spat at prosecutors as the judge sentenced him to life without parole, plus 2 additional life terms and 60 more years. So his escalation pattern went from domestic violence to shooting while pregnant to a protective order, repeated release, and then murder in front of his child. So clearly this was a system failure. Michaela had done everything she could. She did everything right. She got the order, she wore the trauma, she warned the courts, but the system trusted Nash with freedom and ignored every last red flag. Next, we're going to talk about Austin Drummond. So Drummond's record was robbery, gang ties, 25 prison write-ups, including attempted murder while incarcerated. Still, in 2024, he was released on a $130,000 bond. Days later, he allegedly murdered 4 family members and abducted a 7-month-old baby, abandoning the child during a statewide manhunt. His escalation pattern: robbery. And then he was in prison, so in prison violence, mass family murder. I mean, that's not even including while he was in prison, there were recorded phone calls from him to his father asking him to silence witnesses and the store owner who was the victim in his robbery case. So then he got a new charge for that. And his rap sheet was a mile long. I don't know why he was released on bond as early as he was. But clearly, this is another systematic failure. Drummond's violent history wasn't hidden. It was well documented, but the courts still granted him bond, and then 4 lives were lost. Next, I want to talk about Elias Huizar. So Huizar was a former police officer, and then in 2023 he was charged with domestic violence, rape, and child sexual abuse. Despite the charges and his position of trust, he was released on bond. And then on April 22nd, 2024, Huizar showed up at his ex-wife's elementary school and murdered her in front of children. Hours later, he killed his new fiancée, and then he fled across state lines. After a standoff in Oregon, Huizar died by suicide. I mean, what a coward.
That is the incredible moment that a kidnapped 1-year-old in Washington was rescued by police. An Amber Alert went out Monday night for the child. Police say that the kidnapping suspect was not only the baby's father, but he was also wanted for the murders of his ex-wife and his teenage girlfriend. Yesterday afternoon, Oregon State Police say a trooper spotted the car that the suspect was driving in along I-5. After a police chase, the suspect crashed the car. When troopers got to the car, they say that he was already dead for an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. State Police reports that the baby is doing well and is in state custody.
I mean, what was even the point of killing those women just to then kill himself? Like, those cases, those situations make me so angry. I mean, they all do, but the whole suicide thing, murder, suicides, I mean, clearly also a failure. His escalation pattern: domestic violence, rape charges, bond release, double murder spree. I mean, Huizar had access, authority, and a violent record. Still, he was trusted with freedom, and he used it to kill. Next, we're going to talk about the case that probably upsets me the most, but we're going to talk about Bricen Rivers. So in December 2023, Rivers was arrested in Nashville for kidnapping and brutally assaulting his girlfriend, Lauren Johansen. Police described the scene as a bloody attack. Her father warned, if he's released, he will kill her. I mean, he said that to the judge. He begged for him not to be released during his court hearing. And Lauren's dad knew Rivers. I mean, They'd been dating since she was in high school, and they'd had multiple issues since then. Lauren had finally broken up with this loser and was trying to get her life together. She was in nursing school. She was only 22. Rivers spent nearly 7 months in jail, then the system unraveled. His bond was actually reduced from $250,000 to $150,000. A GPS ankle monitor was ordered, but was never actually activated the right way. And then the court failed to transmit his release conditions to the sheriff's office. So Lauren's family was never even notified that he was released. On June 24th, 2024, Rivers walked free. 8 days later, he abducted and murdered Lauren. Her body was found in her car at a Mississippi cemetery by her own family. I think it was her father who ended up finding her body.
This morning, returning the spotlight on the murder of a nursing student after her ex-boyfriend was released from jail without a tracking device. Bricen Rivers was in jail for allegedly kidnapping and beating Lauren Johansen. When he was released on bond, one of his bond conditions was that he was supposed to be fitted with a GPS monitor ahead of his case progressing through the system. But instead, he didn't get fitted. No, he decided to leave town.
Last week, we shared this image with News Channel 5 legal analyst Nick Leonardo, who said it raised serious questions over how Bricen Rivers' bond conditions were handled. Harlan told News Channel 5 Investigates that back on June 29th, this was Bricen Rivers leaving their parking lot while driving Lauren Johansen's car with Lauren in the passenger seat. Order made it clear that Rivers must wear a GPS device installed by Tracking Solutions. He cannot leave the county and must have no contact with Johansen. Court records show that Rivers was released from jail later than he should have been, so Harlan says she hired Freedom Monitoring instead, a company run by her employee, Nikita Wilhoit, who later said that she let Rivers return to Mississippi because she didn't know about the bond conditions until June 28th. Yeah, but the time Rivers returned to Nashville to have his GPS device replaced by Wilhoit the day after she learned of his bond conditions, Leonardo says Rivers should have been placed under arrest. Instead, just 4 days later, Johansen's body was found in her car 7 hours away in Mississippi, with Rivers charged as the main suspect in her murder. Now judges say they want receipts, documents, emails, and photographs from both bond companies that each could face suspension or lose the ability to write bonds in Davidson County.
Okay, so there's going to be an evidentiary hearing on this about these bond companies, what they knew. The Tennessean reports that Brooke Harlan, who owns Brooks Bill Bonding, is welcoming that hearing, saying in a text that she was looking forward to the truth being presented in the courtroom and that a lot of misinformation in conjunction with flat-out lies, she says, have been put out there. Now, I've worked and served in the criminal justice system, and I've got to tell you, I see a lot more things as problematic than just the bond companies. Where was pretrial services, you know, the probation department in the county in all of this? What judge thought it would be a good idea to let him out of jail? Where was the prosecutor in their position on bond for this guy if there was this severe beating of his intimate partner?
Her father later described the scene in graphic detail, calling her brutally mutilated. He blamed the justice system for letting Rivers out, saying, "The jail let this animal out. I mean, he warned them what would happen, and they were so negligent that they didn't let Lauren or anybody in her family know that her abuser was being released. I mean, and he had been stalking her and threatening her for years. Like, that whole family knew what would happen if he got out. He got out. They didn't know. She was murdered. So clearly another systemic failure. Lauren had a family who begged for protection. The court ordered safeguards but never enforced them. The monitor was useless, the warnings were ignored, and the outcome was exactly what her father predicted. The pattern is clear. These weren't isolated tragedies. They were the result of systemic choices. And then there's these nonviolent offenders, drug possession, petty theft, and they serve decades, sometimes more, under mandatory minimums. But violent offenders like Nash, Drummond, Huizar, and Rivers, well, they were trusted with bond, parole, or released early, and they escalated to murder. And basically everybody knew that that would happen. We overpunish the low risk, we underpunish the high risk, and the results, they're predictable and sometimes deadly. Nearly 7 in 10 violent offenders are rearrested within 3 years. 5 to 7% commit a disproportionate share of violent recidivism. The longer they cycle through, the more severe their crimes become. The data confirms what these tragedies already screams, and escalation is real and it's deadly. 4 violent offenders who should have never been freed. The warnings were clear, the patterns were obvious, and the outcomes were predictable, and yet the system failed. If you believe violent offenders should never get a second chance to kill, share this story. Leave a comment, demand change. I mean, and if you believe that they should get a second chance, leave a comment too. Let me know what you think there. I'd love to hear it. But I mean, I don't know. I just feel like I'm so sick of reading about, listening to, hearing these cases where like these violent, awful criminals had already been caught. They'd already been taken off the street once, twice, sometimes even more than that. And then they're just released and they do something even worse, you know, and often the consequences are fatal. And it's just so frustrating to me. It's like they're screaming that they're going to do this. Everybody knows it's going to happen. You're in jail and you have 25 like disciplinary write-ups or issues. One of them is attempted murder, yet you're still released early. In what world does that make sense? I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm missing something, but it's frustrating and heartbreaking, you know? So let me know what you think. As always, I'm Caroline. This is Hidden Headlines. Thanks for watching. I'll see y'all soon, okay?